Okay, we are live on air. So, we're gonna start Maimer Aleph, or Inyan Aleph, as it's called in Pachad Yitzchok on Purim. We're not going to finish it tonight because it's way too long, but we have lots of time till Purim, so we can see how much we can get done. Were there Pachad Yitzchok and Tu B'Shvat, we would have done that, but there isn't. So therefore, right from Hanukkah, we go to Purim, which is a good way to go. Inyan Aleph, Ois Aleph. Reish is going Amalek v'Achrisah they Ovid. Supposed in Parshas Balak that Amalek is the first among the nations, and its end is that it will be lost forever. Say Patach Kachum Misparish. The end of this passage is explained like this. In other words, v'Achrisah they Ovid. Avo pish tufas Achris hayomim hitkufa kazu. Even though Achris hayomim is a period, sheyesh bo tikun, yesh bo tzad tikun l'umas olam, in which the Umas Olam have some sort of tikkun, there's some sort of fixing for most of the nations of the world. Ayin Rashi Pasuk Rishon L'Kriya Shema. We come nevertheless L'Amalek ain't shum tikkun gam b'tkufas achris hayomim. The Pachad speaks about this a great deal. That all the other nations of the world have a Maila, have some sort of thing which a Midah Tova, which Am Yisrael absorbs, and that Midah Tova is what gives them a chiyus and gives them eternity, a connection to be fixed, Lasi Lava, when Achris Yomim comes along. But Amalek has no such Midah. Why? Because Amalek's Midah is to demonstrate Eino Milvado, that there's no other power besides the Kodesh Baruch Hu. So that's a negative Midah. In other words, in order to, so Amalek's purpose is to be eradicated in order to indicate that there is no opposition to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is successful. So therefore they're lost. Okay? So this since at this time of Achris Yomim, there's nothing which is not fixed. It kufas ivadon. It's a time and period. Lambolek. It's repeating some of this. But anyway, Zehu Shenemar v'Achrisah they obeyed. Shacharis, the end is Avadon Damalek, loss of Amalek. Mufurashu b'kasuk tamoshel davar zeh. And really, the pasuk in the Reisha is explaining the Sefer. The beginning of the pasuk explains the end of the pasuk. How so? Because the beginning of the pasuk says the Zehem Shel Kasuk the Reisha is going Amalek. Midnei Kach Achrisah they obeyed. The Zed Amalek Reish is going. Why is Amalek the Reish is going? What gives him this honor position of Reish is going? Because Amalek is the first nation, Sheba, which came, the L'Achim Yisrael to fight against the Jews. This it's a little bit anti-Goyim here, but all the Goyim oppose Am Yisrael and fight against them. But this fight is because they had a bad example. Who's the first entity to fight against the Jews? Who is a bad example? Who led the other nations astray? That is Amalek. So it's explicit here in the pasuk. Because Amalek was the first one to fight, that's why he has no fixing even at the end of time. Reish is going Amalek, they obeyed. Beginning and end, he began, and therefore he is lost at the end of time. Because he was the first, he won't have any fix. Even when all the nations of the world and even the wars against the Jews will be uplifted, they'll be saved, that nevertheless Amalek won't. In this Maimer, we're going to explain how this works. Base. Parshas Mechias Amalek smuchi the Parshas Vayishma Yisro. The parsha of the eradication of Amalek is next to the parsha of Yisro. It's the end of Parshas B'Shalach. V'amar al zeh chachamim. Leit takeh upesi yarim. Hit a scoffer and a foolish person will become wise. Okay, hit a scoffer, and then the foolish person will become wise. And it seems like the two parts of the pasuk are the pidgam, this saying are connected. Leitz takez Amalek. Beat the scoffer, that is Amalek. Upesi yarim, and the foolish person will achieve wisdom, ze Yisro. Klamar, meaning, ein ma polosu sh'Amalek moeles lo lat Amalek atzmo. The downfall of Amalek does nothing for Amalek himself. He's lost. But, ain't those somebody ma polosu rakle mistakel bo lo atzmo. The advantage is to somebody who watches, that the spectator will be uplifted by receiving Amalek's downfall. In other words, to a little bit anticipate, the Kiddush Hashem of Amalek's downfall is what gives other nations, in this case Yisro, the Chachma to see the Ein no Milvado of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that there's no other power than Hashem. V'tam Dover Zehu Mibnei Amalek Begener Leitz. Now the reason this is so is Amalek is a leitz, a scoffer. The Kachim Midosu Leitz. This is the meat of a leitz. She'ina Tochacha Milalo. When you have a scoffer, you can't rebuke them. You can't give them musar. They're just going to reject it, right? Leitzanus achas doch elef tochachos. One leitzanus pushes off 1,000 rebukes. Alacha, certainly a person who's a leitz pushes off the rebuke altogether. If leitzanus achas doch elef tochachos, then of course a person who's a chefs of a leitz is not going to accept any type of rebuke whatsoever. Okay, fine. Chazal identify Amalek as a leitz. Where is his leitzonus? In the laws of leitzonus we have, like Hilchos leitzonus. This, the Pachad Yitzchok in the Sharblat, the first title page, says Divetor behilchos deos v'chovos alvavos. One of Rav Hutner's major thrusts is that deos, Rambam says hilchos deos obviously, but Rav Hutner takes it much further. And hilchos deos chovos alvavos is the point of the Pachad Yitzchok. So there, hilchos deos here, there's halachos of leitzanus. When one can scoff and when one can't scoff. And we say, Chazal say, kol leitzanus asira. Every leitzanus is forbidden. Levad mileitzanusa, l'chutzin avodah zarah. Only avodah zarah is you can make a scoff at. That's why we have all the things like saying Yoshkef or Yeshu and so on and so forth. Leitzanusa avodah zarah. V'alo baruhu that zeshel leitzanus nemarhu b'chol piratav shel tzad hara. It means, it says Rav Hutner Chiddush, that anything bad you can make fun of, not just avodah zarah, but anything bad. The Vada Mutli so to become Mashu Shora. Any Mashu of Ra you're allowed to make a mockery of. When you call B'chinazav anything which is evil. In case that's the case, Lama Noktu Chachomim Hadugma Let, there's a Dafka Chesh Avodah. If the halacha is you can make fun of anything which is bad, so then when Chachom said Avodah Zarah was only an example. It wasn't the primary halacha. Why did they pick this example? Why not say you can make fun of people who are Mechal Shabbos? They're bad people, assuming they're not Tinoko Shinishbu. Why not say to me, make fun of people who are eating treif? They're bad people, assuming they're not Tinoko Shinishbu. Why not say you can make fun of treif, of the concept of Chilul Shabbos, if you can't make fun of people? But why Avodah Zarah? The key to this is in the words of Rabbeinu Yonah al Kosov, Mitzaref LaKesef. There is a crucible which purifies, refined silver. The core also a type of crucible. I guess the mitzaref is more the smith who purifies the silver. And there's a crucible for the gold. The ish lefima lolo, and a person according to that which he praises. The chera, it seems, perush hakosov, that means to say, hu da ish nikar betoch ofen hahilul shebnei adam mahalimuzo. You can tell a person, just like you can test the silver or the gold by the smith or by the crucible, so too you can test the person by how he is praised. In other words, if a person is praised like some in a certain way, so that means that kol, I think I forget Lashon Chazal, but kol shenoch abrios nocha imenu ruach mokom nocha imenu. If people like a person, then Hashem likes the person. So there is a connection, we assume, between people praising him and what he is, right? That seems to be the Pashut Pshat. He comes to repudiate this perush. You are recognized by that which you praise, not by that way in which you are praised, but the way in which you praise other things. Whatever you praise, that is a sign of what your mahus, what your character is. The Tzaddik, by the way, takes this further. He says that any phrase which a person says on a regular basis is an indication of his shorish neshama. Because if you have a phrase which you always use in many, many contexts, and you constantly use it over and over again, so then that is an indication of what's going on in your soul. But this here, Rabbeinu Yonah is not going that far. He's saying the people who you praise are a manifestation of whatever you praise, not just people, are a manifestation of the core of who you are internally. If you praise good deeds, righteous people, you should know, and you should be able to clarify, that he's a good person. And he has a source, a root of tzedek, justice, of propriety, of the right stuff, the goyim, etc. And even if he has sins which you don't know about, hidden sins, which he even successfully hides from other people, you know that he loves justice. And these are shortcomings, but overall he loves justice. And somebody who, however, praises low deeds, disgusting deeds, or praises Rishoyim, Rasha HaGomor. Not just the Rasha Gomor. It's a complete Rasha, the fact that he praises. See there the golden language of Rabbeinu Yonah. In other words, if we come to run a test, as official, I want to check out the character of a person. The primary question is that to which he subordinates himself or subjugates himself. This is a very Hasidic phrase, bittul, obviously, but there was not a verse to Hasidus, as we know. I would not have used the lashon of hisbatlus when you praise something that is misbatel to it, but he does. He's saying that when you praise something, that shows that you're batel, that you are, in a certain sense, nullifying yourself to that thing. So to us, his batlus shalom novasi mikoch hakoras hachashivus comes as a result of recognizing the significance of the thing to which you negate yourself. To the extent you recognize the significance of something, there will be born within you a movement of self-negation towards that. Again, I'm personally uncomfortable with this because I would say a shevach is not his batlus, but my footnote is entitled, right? So therefore, the primary question in any event of testing a person is the power to recognize significance. How does it work? Where's it going? What direction is it headed? You can have in front of you, this is a pretty stark statement he's about to make. You can have in front of you two people. One learns Torah with diligence and with consistency and quantity and quality. And the second guy is not involved learning Torah altogether. But on the other hand, we find by the first guy, that he negates himself and submits himself when a very rich person enters into him, enters into his room. You know, it's like, let's say lahadil, but it's like a yeshiva dinner, right? Who the yeshiva honor the most at the dinner? Not the people who are the Talmidei Chachamim. They're subordinate to that point. It is the gvir who's being honored. So this guy who learns Torah day and night, maybe he's going to be more machnia himself, more submit himself to the gvir, to the great usher. And when Talmid Chacham comes into him, Eino doesn't come. He doesn't move from his place. You know, the Sirot Tfilos on the Chet Shulchan Fnech Sinas Chinam in the Vidui. So the Perush Dover Shalom says that Sinas Chinam is found mostly among Talmidei Chachamim. That Talmidei Chachamim have a great lack of respect to their cherets for each other. So I don't know if it's true, but in any event, this is what type of person Rav Hutner is depicting here. So Luma Zos, on the other hand, you find by the second person doesn't learn. When he meets the Talmid Chacham, he is governed by a attitude of significance and negation. So in this case, this comparison, Rabbeinu Yonah tells us, even though in diligence in learning, the first guy is much higher than the second guy. Nevertheless, the first guy is much more distant from the Torah. From the second guy, each person is not judged by what they do, but by what they praise. Now, of course, it's not completely black and white like that. Obviously, what you do is also significant. But your character, who you are internally, is who you admire, who you praise, who your role model is, to whom you're willing to negate yourself. If what a person recognizes significant is directed towards Torah, it brings him close to Torah, much more than even the learning itself. If it doesn't have this drive, it's not activated by this authority. That's very often in yeshivas. They'll tell you things like Kavod Torah is greater than learning Torah. Then there's an element of truth to it, because Kavod Torah means you have chashivas for Torah. If you're not mechapi Torah properly, so then your learning Torah doesn't necessarily have, like Rav Hutner says, the right direction. So therefore, Kavod Torah is a very important part of learning, and that's why I'm not sure if he says this here. I don't think he says this in this piece, but elsewhere he says that's why Chachamim use lashon of shimush Talmidei Chachamim to serve a Talmid Chacham for learning from a Talmid Chacham. And sometimes they say, the language of yotzak mayim hayodav. He poured water on his hands. Why is that? Because the learning from somebody doesn't necessarily mean you find them significant. You can learn from somebody even if you don't have any regard for that person intrinsically, because they have knowledge that they can impart to you. But if you're willing to serve that person, that means you submit yourself to that person. That means you find that chashivus in that person. That is really connecting to that person and to his Torah in a profound and deep and intimate way. So therefore, shimush Talmidei Chachamim is the language that Chachamim use for proper learning from a Rebbe. Going on. Matsuya Davar, and it's very frequent that we find two people in midlife. One of them devoted his youth to Torah. The other one devoted himself in his youth to mundane worldly matters. Now they're in midlife, approaching their midlife crisis. Purim, it's changed. The first guy is upset that in his youth he didn't do stuff which was mundane and worldly. Maybe he wouldn't be able to make a living now. Maybe he'd be a rich person. And the other guy, he's upset that he didn't learn Torah when he was young. The second guy is much closer to Torah than the first guy. The first guy knows Shas, the second guy doesn't know anything. Why? Because ish lefi mahalolo. Every person according to what they praise. The power to recognize significance, which is in a person. Rabbeinu Yonah so koach hahilul. Okay, koach hahilul. When you recognize significance, it means you praise. The koach hahilul indicates what what you are ma'arich, what you value, what's considered by you to be significant. Hilul shadam ain't no ela bitui. The praise a person gives, its only expression la koras hachashivu shalos adam, to the recognition of the significance of that person. Ish lefi ma'alalu. Kol advarim halalu amurim hein ba'adam. Then we'll go to the end of Dalit today, and then we'll stop. All of these things are stated by a person. She'etzem koach hakoras hachashivus, where the power to recognize significance, mutba is embedded in him properly. And then we have to know, check, is it in the right direction? In other words, are you giving significance the right thing or not? But the truth is, this test, so I think there's includes now. There's a question which precedes the question of who are you being mahala. What's that? We have no that to this power of recognizing significance in others, in other entities, in other people, yesh ba nefesh ha'nafsho shel adam netiya charifa lezilzul. I think I might skip something. There's a great opposition within the soul to recognize the significance of other people. Why? Because there's yesh ba nefesh netiya charifa lezilzul. People have a sharp tendency to make a mockery, especially in our generation. I don't know, maybe all generations like this, but our cynical, sarcastic bent is part and parcel of our drive to rebel against recognizing significance. On the contrary, to make a mockery. So therefore, in opposition to the recognition of significance, you'll find in the soul an approach, an attitude, which does not want to tolerate any other significance. You find this very frequently, that people put down anybody who they consider to be above them because it goes against their grain to consider that other people are above them. They want to have the chashivas. They don't want to impart the chashivas to other people.
I thought my mockery was a simon that I was a Talmud Chacham.
You thought so.
You said Siddur Chinuch is for Talmud Chacham, so I thought, I'm a Talmud Chacham.
Now you find the opposite.
Who did you say said that? It wasn't Pachad Yitzchok, it was a different sefer.
That said what?
The Talmud Chachamim have Siddur Chinuch.
The Perush in Sefer Otzar Tfilos, called Dover Shalom, and Achet Shechatan Fnecha B'Sinas Chinuch.
Okay.
Okay? Now, there's a flip side of this. My version was me before. The B'Sol Salanter says, I just quoted the Shabbos, it says, Talmidei Chachamim Marvim Shalom Ba'olam, right? Saying in davening. So B'Sol Salanter allegedly said, what's mean Talmidei Chachamim Marvim Shalom Ba'olam? It means they fight a lot. So therefore they have to make up a lot. So there's a lot of Shalom in the world because they have to constantly make Shalom over and over and over again. That's Marvim Shalom Ba'olam. Okay, in any event, Zilus Anichale. There is a power, there's a drive in the Neshama to make a mockery of things. Shmo Sha'koyach Hazeh, the name of this power, and we spread to Chazka, which really gushes forth. Lafkias Atzmo Miyadesh Hashim was to remove from it the concept of the significance of other things. Leitzonos. That is what Leitzonos is. Midas Leitzonos Atzmis. The Leitzonos in and of itself, as it is in its root in the soul, in Yonahu, its concept, its character. To find the break, the chol binyan, in other words, the way to break in or break down, any binyan shechashivas. The fourth line might be very, very fine, might be very hard to find, but late, he is great at finding the fault line which brings down the building, which eliminates any necessity to find chashivas in something else. Menashe stores kalbinya to destroy the entire building, out of this crack, out of the small opening. Zelu mazeh, there's a direct opposition. Shifaso shekoach ha'ilul, the ambition of the koach of praising, is to make more things chashiv. Defines significance of everything. Heavy lame mikol adam. Shulam for everybody. Everybody has some significance. That is the koach hahilu. But lumaso shifos koach leitzos, the ambition of leitzonos, who are both zilza b'olam, to make more and more of a mockery of the world. The nimtza comes out kiyam yivchan hazeh shel ish l'fi ma'alolo. This concept of each person according to their praise, mispashetu b'shtein l'chutos mizgamos, goes between 2 points. Hankuda Rishanahu, the first point is Matzava Shel Adam, a person's state, Machlekazu, in this internal battle, this internal disagreement, Shemin Koach Elul Ben Koach Leitzonos, of the power to praise and the power to denigrate, to mock. Vanakuda Shniya, and the second part of this, is if you were succeeded in the first point, and you have a Koach Elul, then we can say that in this war between the power to praise and the power to scoff, the victory went to the power to praise. Nevertheless, there's still a question remaining. In which plane does his praise act? If we're going to put in front of us the question, what is the place in which a person gave the greatest significance to the greatest falsehood? The answer is, the greatest significance to the greatest falsehood is to Avodah Zarah. You give significance to it. That's all the concept of Avodah. And it's Avodah which is completely false. There's no greater chashivas than serving. There's no greater lie than this idolatry. When it comes out by a person who worships this idolatry, yes, his power to praise and find importance has overcome and vanquished his power to mock. He's praising. The entire essence of his service is praising. Here, the power of Hilul is going to the antithetical direction. The Nimtza comes to Avodah Zarah, he piskas koach Hilul b'tzadara. Avodah Zarah is the pinnacle of praising in the wrong direction. So now we have 2 problems. There's the problem of Stamazoy, a person might be late, and not a Mahalo. But even as a Mahalo, the Tehillah and Tiferes, which he gives, could be not the Chaya Olami, but to the antithesis. Avodah Zarah. B'tzadara. V'zel pesher davar, so this is the understanding on a deeper level. Shebeheter leitzonus, that in the peter to make a mockery, noktu chachamim l'dugma, chachamim took as an example, chet zeh shel Avodah Zarah dafka, specifically the Avodah Zarah. B'vadai heter leitzonus noheg b'choprato shel tzadara. It says again, Rav Hutner, it's leitzonus as applies to all wickedness, to all bad stuff. Avalo also hara. But that ra hanizon lehedja, which is sustained explicitly, from the exact opposite of leitzonus. Not just that you praise something, but praise something in the worst possible way. Also rash shma avodah zarah. It's that wickedness which is avodah zarah. Okay, dover TV obed Hashem. So therefore, a person wants to obey Hashem and wants to make sure that his koach hilul is in the right direction. He has to make sure that to use leitzanus, which is his other power, for the other direction. Leitzanus pushes against the koach hilul going in the wrong direction. It's a safeguard and also a battering ram to make sure that his hilul stays focused on where it's supposed to focus. Okay, dover TV obed Hashem. That's why it's naturally for obed Hashem the yachid es koach leitzanus. To focus his power of Leitzanis, specifically against the Chet Avodah Zarah. Okay, everybody said we're about halfway through the Maimer. So if Maimer has 8 osios, and we did 4 tonight, so I think we'll finish the rest next week. Mir Tashem. Is that okay?
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
I just had a question, Rabbi.
Yes.
I had missed how maybe he didn't speak about it. When I do mockery of Avodah Zarah, why shouldn't I be even though it's for good purpose, it's bad for my midos. I'm cultivating mockery still.
Right. He's still, but he obviously there are other cheshbonos involved. Rav Hutner here is telling you the theoretical, not the practical. Obviously, if the Rambam would tell you if you have a problem with Eitzonos, then you have to go to the other direction and not even be mislocated from Avodah Zarah. We're talking about when a person is in, the golden mean, in the middle of the road. So then he uses Eitzonos improperly. It's not where the midos. It's not where the midos like Has or Gaiba, where a person has to go completely to one side, according to the Rambam. Leitzanos is the middle which you can go the middle way. What's the middle way? The middle way is you use scoffing for when it's appropriate. If you want to know how to measure whether you're able to scoff for appropriate things, then says Rav Hutner, it's to scoff. If it's to scoff at Avodah Zarah, because that is the antithesis of what you should be praising.
Right, and then in the beginning, and he talked about that which you praise is a shorish neshama. I mean, obviously you have tshuva, right? I mean, you have Reish Lakish. Is it Reish Lakish who talks about he's going to bite a Talmud Chacham? You have people who praise the wrong things. How can you say it's a shorish neshama when they do tikkunim, they do tshuva?
So what we would say is that the shorish neshama is very abstract. Obviously, every person's shorish, unless you go with the opinions and couple that a person's shorish neshama is predestined, which I don't think Rav Hutner would agree with. The shorish neshama is abstract. Like you can praise. Let's take it this way: you can praise people, you can admire people who are the power hitters in baseball, and you can admire. I'm not saying that's evil, but let's take that as an example. And you can admire people who are power hitters in learning. Right? Hit strong sparrists out there. So the shorish neshama is the admiration of power hitters. It's shorish to the shorish, and then the more external shorish, not the core, but just beyond the core, is to direct that at a mundane hitting or at a spiritual hitting. So it's the same koyach, the same thing you praise, the things you admire, which usually has to do with your character traits, which are at the core of your being. Manifests itself in different ways depending on whether you're praising the good thing or praising the bad or praising not such a good thing. Whether you're admiring your machshiv this or machshiv that. So I would say that when it says shorish neshama here, succinctly, to put it this succinctly, it says shorish neshama. It's not talking about the absolute shorish. It's talking about how we can recognize how you're using your shorish neshama at present, whether you're using it or abusing it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions for tonight? All right. See you next week. Have a good night. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. Good night.